All right, so I want to make a quick video about Neovim's client-server architecture. Honestly, I haven't been that familiar with this up until recently when I was trying the restart command out, and then I wanted to know how things are working. And so I thought, hey, make a quick video, maybe share some of this so other people can take advantage of it. Basically, when you start up Neovim here, it looks like it's just a single application, but behind the scenes here, if I split the screen, so over here, if I grep for Neovim processes, you can see there's two of them here. I've got 12.7.19 and 12.7.20. And if I look at a PS tree view instead here, you can see there's 7.19, there's 7.20. So 7.19, that's the one that I launched, which is Neovim, so NVim. And then got this other one here, NVim --embed. So this is the server process, and this is the client process. And that basically means you have some flexibility here to do some really interesting things. For example, let's go ahead and kill this off here. So instead of running both at the same time, I can actually start the server independent of the client. So I've got a couple set up here. One basically where I start the server attached, one where I start it not attached. So we'll start it with attached first here. So it's going to open up just like before, got actually the client and the server in this case, but it's also listening now. I can now remotely connect to it. So if I come over here, do a simple pgrep here, now you can see I've got the client here. In this case, this is the one I launched here with the localhost port 6666. And then I've got the embedded version here. This is the server version that's actually listening on that port then. And then, of course, the client here is connected to that server, and that's why I can see it here. So if I do this now, come down here, I'll split the screen. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so things don't get too dicey in terms of wrapping. All right. So down below here, I actually can attach another client to this. If I grab my abbreviations here that are my little reference of what's possible, I could, for example, start up a client that also attaches to that UI. And by default, I'm using this port 6666, so I'm good to go. Essentially, I just say, hey, connect up to this server here, and I want you to turn on the remote UI mode. Basically, like remote desktop for Windows, except it's for Neovim. So now if I do this here, you can see, look, I've got two instances open. Of course, they're different sizes, so that kind of messes up the original instance. But as you see here, they are synchronized. And if I click somewhere, the cursor moves. Either of these I can click and move around, and the other one's going to move as well. So these are synchronized access into the same server, and that's why, of course, when you move around, you're going to see the exact same thing in both instances because they're both attached to the same server. The client is basically like a thin client that just presents the information to you. Behind the scenes, all the buffers and everything, it's managed inside of that server process. And then another interesting thing I could do here, instead of another Neovim client, if I just exit out, and actually, if I exit out, I get into trouble here. Watch what happens here. If I do a quit here, you can see everything detaches and the server shuts down. So be careful when you do that. Instead, when you launch the server here, and I'll launch the server. Actually, this time, let's do this. Let's launch the server not attached, I call it, which basically is just that embed mode. So I'm only going to launch the server component now. Watch this. There's no client now right here. Then over here, if I connect up to it with the client, I can see it. Now, if I want to detach but not quit the server, well, use the detach command here. Now we'll do that. So my client quits, but the server is still running. So that means I can connect right back up to it. In fact, let's move the cursor down here. Let's go down to the bottom of the file here so you can see I'll select some text there. All right, so I'll go ahead and detach here. And if I reconnect, you can see cursor is right exactly where it's at, right next to that text I selected. And if I do GV here, I can select the exact same text because the selection range is still there because the buffer is still open in the server. All right, so that's one thing. So I can detach then and keep that server running. So if I want now, another neat thing I could do, I don't have to start up the Neovim client itself. I could do Neovide here. And what I'll do is I'll grab the call here. All I have to do is swap out Neovim for Neo and Vide. And then I don't think I passed the remote UI arg here. So I'll connect up to the server as well. And that opens up a GUI then. And you can see it's pointed at the exact same file here. And if I do GV, watch this here, you can see it selects the exact same text. Just because, again, behind the scenes in that server, that is the exact same instance of a buffer with all of the state exactly as I left it. And so once again here, if you want to disconnect but not kill that server, that's where detach comes in then. So as far as use cases, well, I haven't actually come up with a lot of use cases myself, except that new restart command, which allows you to restart the server without restarting the client. That's pretty cool. I've got a separate video about that if you want to see that. So that's one good actual use case. Another good use case, you could actually start up a server on a server and then connect to it from a client. But I don't know, if you're already SSH'd in, you might as well just open up the client on the server as well. So probably the primary use case then beyond this would be for testing purposes so that you could have an instance you spin up, you can connect to it and send commands. In fact, another thing you can do here with the Neovim command, and I made little abbreviations so I can remember all of these here. In addition to attaching the UI, you could also just send a command here. So let's do a few things. I'm going to kill off the server because I want to start a server again and just attach this one so you can see it. Watch what happens here over on the right if I go ahead and send a command here. In this case, I'll do something like split. Oops, I forgot to type the enter key. So you can see actually it typed split down in the lower left. I just forgot to hit the carriage return here. So I'll do that actually. I'll just now send carriage return. I think that I can get that to work here. Wrap this in quotes. Yeah, there you go. You can see it execute the command now. So now maybe I want to run the new command here. You can see that splits out a new window. So it's actually basically typing whatever I put in here as the remote command then, just as if I had gone over to the client and done that exact same thing. So I could then send the quit command. That would actually close out one of those buffers. Do that again here and close out the other one. And so if you want to learn more about this, maybe what I'll do is, as the last step here, I'll point you in this direction here. If you go to the help and grab the remote.txt help, it's really short actually. Basically just need the first page. The second page is essentially missing functionality. It's stuff that might get added in the future. The first page is really all you need here. I showed you about half of these commands. So take a look at this. Yeah, you can open up new tabs as well. So there's a lot of neat things you can do here to be able to interact with a remote Neovim server. And who knows, maybe there's some use case you've got where this would be useful. For example, I'm thinking I've got this feature where I can open things from Finder inside of Neovim. I'm thinking there's probably some way I could take advantage of this here. Let me show you what this looks like here. So if I'm sitting in Finder and I want to open up this file here in Alfred, I've got an open in Neovim, got a little helper or workflow, whatever it is here. I can run this and you'll see it'll launch a Neovim instance, but I'm thinking actually, if I were to go and open up another file right now, and I don't mind it that it does this, but right now it's actually going to launch a separate instance. That's just how I designed it. It was kind of a limitation of how I was doing things. Also, I just ended up kind of liking that because when I'm done, I can just close the file. I think of it as one-off opening up a file, but it's possible I could actually start up a server then per workspace. And then if I open a second file, I could just open that second file then inside of that second server and not need to go open up another instance. So yeah, enjoy.